Rise of the Dark Knight Reboot, number 4. Thursday, May 20th, 1999. Bruce Wayne was finally walking down the aisle in Gotham University as he was graduating with his business degree and his minor in science. He was a very happy man. It was probably the proudest moment of his life. And the people he cared for were in the stands watching him as he received his degree. They were Lucius Fox, Dr. Leslie Tompkins, Aunt Harriet, his new girlfriend, Julie Madison, and her dad, Bill Madison. As he got his degree, everybody clapped. Soon they went out to celebrate while Tompkins, Aunt Harriet, and Lucius Fox excused themselves from the table and left early, so that way Bruce could have his moment alone with Julie Madison and her dad. Well, the three discussed a lot of things. Bill liked Bruce Wayne because he was a smart guy, he was responsible, and he graduated college early. He saw Bruce Wayne as probably the perfect man for his daughter. Well, after the dinner, then Julie and Bruce went out to dance at the nightclub they met, the Kiss Kiss Club. Then afterwards, Bruce Wayne drops Julie home and says goodnight to her and leaves. He goes home and goes straight into the Batcave and begins working, fixing up his Batmobile. Even though the Batmobile was ready, it had problems several nights ago, so he had to make some more modifications to it. Namely, he took out the two centrifugal superchargers, and he also removed the rocket motor from the trunk. It was putting on too much weight to the Batmobile. Now that the trunk was pretty much freed, he instead put in a rear radar transponder and a rear-mounted multispectral digital camera. At the front end of the car, on the hood, were the LED lights that resembled two sinister eyes. On there were two multispectral digital cameras that helped the Batmobile aid in autopilot, along with the forward-mounted radars and the rear-mounted radars. There was also radar transponders and the race mirror on the sides, so now the Batmobile had complete 4-point radar system. But Bruce Wayne still had another problem with the Batmobile. The twin centrifugal superchargers. Both units were busted. Their compressor fans were completely loose and were free spinning, not generating the power needed for the Batmobile. Bruce Wayne decided to remove both units and replace it with powerful racing intake and cold air intakes. The car would still generate 800 horsepower, and also he decided to remove the AC compressor because he didn't need AC in the car, and he used the free space in there to put a secondary high wattage alternator. So that alternator would power the weapon system, the radar, and the computers. And for the finishing touch, since he had to remove the rocket motor, he had to put in nitrous oxide, even though he didn't want to. The car still needed something to help give it a speed boost in case he needed to make a quick getaway, as he was finishing putting on the final touches of the nitrous system. After he was done, he closes the hood of the Batmobile. Afterwards, Bruce says to himself out loud, "Well, that's done." Bruce was wiping his hands clean of the oil and grime that was on it from working on the car. And he says to himself, "Tomorrow night, Falcone goes down." Friday morning. It was a typical Friday morning for Captain Gordon. As he was getting up, doing his daily routines, getting ready for work. He was dreading today because today was his day to stay late. But unbeknownst to the police captain, it was going to be a very interesting late shift for him today. As he was leaving for work, he walks out the front door and he shuts the front door, locking it. Then he noticed a package on the welcome mat. He was kind of suspicious because, well, he didn't order anything recently, and he's a cop, so usually when someone leaves a package, it's bad news. Well, he picks up the package, and he sees the bat symbol on the package. He definitely knew who the package was from. He goes into the car, takes out a knife, and opens the package. The package had a note, and it said on the note, "Dear Captain Gordon, here's everything you need on Carmine Falcone. I know you're working the late shift tonight, so expect an anonymous tip. Your friend." And then there was a bat symbol. Well, Gordon looked through what the package contained. It was file folders of everything that Falcone was doing. It had to be connected to when Falcone's penthouse was ransacked by the Batman a week before. Gotham Docks, 11 o'clock. Late night at the Gotham Docks usually is one of two things: quiet or bustling with illegal activity. Tonight, it was the latter, bustling with illegal activity, as Falcone and his men were there waiting for a major drug shipment to come in. Of course, Falcone's already paid off the right people, so they're not going to interfere tonight. Or so he thought. Falcone was sitting in his stretch limo, screaming at somebody on his cell phone, while his men were surrounding the limo, keeping their eye on anything out of the ordinary. Well, the Batman was at the docks, and the docks was crawling with Falcone's goons, just patrolling the area, waiting for the ship, and making sure nobody interferes. Meanwhile, in the Batcave, Lucius Fox was there in front of the Batcomputer, being Batman's electronic eyes and ears. He had hacked into the dock's security system and was now seeing what the cameras were seeing and relaying what he found to Batman. And he says, "Batman, be on the lookout. There's 12 men in the north end of the dock, and there's another 8 men just south end of the dock, and right by the entryway, the police are there, a small squad of them, all probably under Falcone's payroll." Batman says to Fox,
"All right, I read you loud and clear."
So Batman decided to do the underground approach. He opens a sewer lid and goes down. He goes through the sewer. That way no one could see him, but I guess he was wrong. As he activated his thermal imaging, he could see the heat signatures of 3 men there. 2 in front of one guy, and another guy what appears to be behind some sort of gate. Batman goes for a closer look and hears the guy that was behind the gate saying, "Listen, guys, I don't know what you guys are doing here. I don't want to know what you guys are doing here, man. I have a family. I'm just trying to do my job. If I don't get these valves fixed, there's going to be a hell of an explosion. Come on, guys. Please just let me do my job and let me go home to my family." The guy was begging to the 2 men on the other end of the fence. The men on the other end of the fence were none other than Falcone's men. And they said, "Hey, buddy, don't worry. You'll go home this morning to your wife and kids and everything. But we're just going to have to ask you to let us through and just keep your mouth shut. And you didn't see anything. You'll be fine. We may even reward you financially," said the one goon. Well, Batman decided it was a perfect time to sneak up on the 2 guys. He sneaks up on the 2 guys and butts their heads together. The maintenance worker looks and was surprised, and he says, "My God, you're real. You're real." Batman says to the maintenance worker,
"You better find a safe place to hide tonight. It's not safe here. There is a massive drug shipment coming in, and this place is crawling with Falcone's men and a small squad of corrupt cops."
The maintenance man said, "Oh, just great, man, just great. I knew I should have called in tonight if I didn't need the money so bad. Oh." Then he says to Batman, "Well, listen, Batman, I was here tonight to fix the steam valves. Those things were so old that they rusted up, and this place is a ticking time bomb." Well, Batman says to the maintenance guy,
"Those steam valves are going to have to wait. Your life is way too important. Just hide. But I need the code to get in here. I see a keypad. What's the code?"
The maintenance guy tells Batman, "Oh, that's easy. That's my wedding anniversary, 12/27. Batman nods his head in acknowledgement, and the maintenance guy runs off. Then Batman goes over to the keypad and enters the code 1227. Then the gate opens. Then Batman gets on the radio with Fox.
Come in, Batcave. I just gained access to the maintenance level. Apparently the maintenance guy tells me that the steam pipes are in bad shape. I might use that to my advantage. Can you give me a quick schematic on where the main shutoff valve is at?
Fox says, I'm a step ahead of you. About 30 feet from you, there is the main shutoff valve, but Fox warns Batman, Batman, you do that, and there's going to be a serious explosion. I mean, a very damaging explosion. Batman says to Fox,
That's what I'm counting on.
So Batman makes his way to the main valve and begins turning the wheel to close the main steam pipe. Suddenly, Batman hears a strange noise as the pressure started building up within the pipes. Batman knew that was his cue to run, and he quickly darted out of there. And as soon as he did, the fireworks show started. The explosion did some serious damage, and the north end of the dock, where the 12 men were, the explosion caused a giant shipping container to come flying right at the men, taking out several of them, and the hot steam pretty much caused the others to flee. While in the other end, by the entryway, where the police were at, suddenly the explosion was causing structural damage, and even the sewer lids to go flying into the air. The cops quickly got in the car and fled. Meanwhile, on the north side of the docks, the men saw the giant steam geyser rising to the sky. One of the men says, "Holy crap, what's going on?" Also, they heard the loud explosions. Another guy says, "I don't know, man. No, this place is old, man. Wouldn't surprise me if it was a steam pipe burst. But that's on the side where the other guys are at, and those cops. Wonder if they're okay." After the man finished his sentence, then the whole group heard a very loud crash. The men quickly turned to look where the sound came from. One of the guys says, "Holy shit, what was that?" Another guy says, "Come on, let's go investigate." Then the leader of the group says, "Wait a minute, we all can't go at once. Some of us have to stay behind." And then he picks 4 guys to go and investigate. He says, "Johnny, Mick, Tony, and Mark, you go and investigate what was that noise, and if it's all clear, come back here as quick as possible." The men acknowledged the leader, and they all ran off to investigate what that sound was. As soon as they got there, they were frightened. It was a large shipping container that fell from the top and now was on the ground. Mark says, "Holy crap, what knocked over that shipping container?" Tony says, "I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's just find out what did this and then just get back to the dock." Mick says, "You don't have to tell me twice." As the men were going to investigate, suddenly a flashbang falls by them and goes off. Afterwards, Batman jumps in and makes short work of them. Now there were 4 left at the other end, and they were close enough together that Batman could take them out all at once. Batman gets into the forklift, starts it up, and rides the forklift high speed. He gets all 4 men by surprise, and then drives the forklift with all of them over the edge into the water below. Afterwards, Batman sees the small ship coming in. It was clearly the drug shipment. Batman had to go and take out the guys aboard ship. So Batman grapples up, and then he glides over from one of the cranes over to the ship. As soon as he lands on the small ship, it was minimally crewed according to his thermal imaging goggles. Then Batman quietly takes out the crew one by one. They were armed, but he was cautious, he was stealthy, he took them out. Then he made his way to the bridge where he took out the captain and his first mate. After everyone was taken care of, Batman makes his way to the front of the ship. He cuts the straps holding down the shipping containers full of drugs. Then he goes back up to the wheelhouse and then heads straight for the dock at high speed. Falcone's men, who were waiting for the ship to come in, noticed that the ship was coming in at awfully high speed. Then one of the guys says, "Guys, you better clear out. I think he lost control. He's coming in too fast." After they fled, the ship crashes right into the docks, and all the unsecured containers go flying and crash all over the docks, creating a mess. Then Falcone's men gather around to see what's going on. One of them says, "What the Sam hell just happened?" Suddenly, Batman throws a smoke pellet. Then it goes off, covering the entire area in thick white smoke. Then Batman, using the thermal imaging in his cowl, quickly takes out the confused and fogged men, one by one, very quickly. Afterwards, there was only Falcone left. So Batman made his way where Falcone was. He still had his armed men surrounding the stretch limo. Batman had to find another way to get to him. So he goes into the crane. The crane, luckily, was a magnetic crane. He activates the crane, moves it over to Falcone's limo, turns on the magnet, and lowers it, and suddenly Falcone, who was in a stretch limo trying to get a hold of his men on the radio, and also trying to get a hold of the other men on cell phone, suddenly noticed that his radio and cell phone shot out of his hands up to the ceiling, and he felt the entire car just suddenly lift into the air. He was wondering, what the hell's going on? What the hell's going on? His men that were standing guard see the whole thing and run off. They were not going to stick around to see what just nabbed their boss. Soon, Batman climbs down the chain of the crane and sticks his head in through the sunroof of the limo and says to Falcone,
Boo.
and grabs Falcone by his suit collar and yanks him out of the sunroof. Later, Captain Gordon receives an anonymous tip that there was something big going down on the Gotham docks. So him and several police officers head down to Gotham docks, and sure enough, they found a scene of chaos. Drugs all over the place, Falcone's men all over the place, unconscious and badly injured, and the big guy himself, Carmine Falcone, tied to a searchlight that was on. Gordon had noticed that he had some rags over his arms and shoulder covering part of the searchlight. They were torn. As Gordon looks to the sky, it made a rather crude bat symbol. He knew who did this. It was his mysterious vigilante friend. Well, he orders Falcone cut down. The opportunity was there now. Falcone was caught red-handed, and all the evidence that Batman gave to him, he used it and presented it to the media. He still couldn't trust certain people in higher positions than him. But it now caused a crap storm of controversy as the media was swirling that big-name mobster Carmine Falcone was finally caught red-handed, and the evidence implicated the commissioner and half of the police force and several judges and several important lawyers, including the DA. It was a huge mess for everybody. The next night, near the Park Row section of Gotham City, two cops that were in the squad car driving the beat, Officers Charles Kaninsky and Officer Mike Dobbs, were two childhood friends that became cops. And they were partners. Well, as Dobbs was driving the squad car and talking to his friend, Charles, suddenly Charles was looking out the window when he noticed something in a back alley. He says to Mike, "Mike, stop. Is that what I think that is? The two men were witnessing Batman in a back alley beating the crap out of a member of one of the most violent street gangs in Gotham City, the Disciples. Batman was really laying on the punk. Then Mike grabs the loudspeaker and says, "You there in the back alley, hold it, you're under arrest." Batman stops beating up the gang member, and then he looks at the squad car as the squad car was backing up and making a turn to pull into the alley. Then Batman grabs his grapple gun, shoots it up, and grapples upwards to safety. Soon, the two cops were in pursuit of Batman. As Dobbs was driving, keeping his eye on the road, Kaninsky had his head sticking out the window, looking up at the rooftops, seeing Batman run, jumping, building the building. They pursued him to an old abandoned apartment complex that was scheduled for demolition. Batman runs in there and hides. The squad car pulls up, and Dobbs says, "Breaker, breaker, we got him. We got the Batman, we got that vigilante, and 922 Evergreen Street." Repeat, 922 Evergreen Street. Send backup immediately. Minutes later, the whole street was cordoned off as the police had surrounded the old apartment building. But also, Brandon was called in, and Brandon was ready to get that freak, the Batman. There was also a sizable group of people that surrounded behind the police cordon to see what was going on. Also, at that same time, Captain Gordon arrives to see what was going on. He asks one of the officers, "What's going on?" The officer says, "Well, Captain, we've got the Batman in there." "Brandon's on his way," said the police officer to Gordon. Suddenly, Gordon realized, "Oh, great." Soon after he said that, the SWAT team van pulls up, and the back opens up, and all the SWAT team come pouring out. Brandon was the last one out, barking orders. "All right, people, wait a moment, wait for the helicopter to come." Then Gordon hears the sound of the helicopter coming in. Gordon looks and sees that the helicopter had a long dangling chain, and at the end of the chain was this huge metal box. As the helicopter was flying over the old building, it let go of the metal box. The metal box fell right through the rotting roof of the old building, and then there was a huge explosion. The explosion destroyed several upper floors of the old building. Batman was hiding in the upper floors, the last part that was hit by the explosion, but he survived. The explosion caused the floor to give out, and he fell to the lower floor. Unfortunately, in the process, the heat of the explosion ignited his thermite inside his utility belt. Batman quickly took off his utility belt, and all he could do on such short notice was save his grapple gun and his PDA. Then Brandon and his men stormed the entrance. Brandon screams to the SWAT team, "Okay, men, teams of two, Alpha and Bravo. I will lead Alpha team. We will explore the basement. Bravo team, go up and explore the upper floors. Radio back when you kill the bastard." Bravo team says, "Yes, sir." And they run up with their rifles to the upper floors. Well, Alpha team went down to the basement. There was a sign that said extremely high voltage. They explored the basement area, and it showed signs that the homeless were living down there. Who knows where the homeless were at now? They probably all left as soon as they were told that this place was gonna be demolished. Well, suddenly, Bravo team comes over the radio.
"Come in, Alpha Leader. Come in, Alpha Leader. This is Bravo Leader. We're up in the upper floors. There's no sign of the Batman, but there are plenty of signs of dead homeless people up here. Maybe Batman is among the dead up here. It's gonna need to be identified by the coroner."
Then Brandon screams, "Okay, Alpha team, this area is secured. Let's move back upstairs now." Well, Alpha team moves back upstairs. Then Brandon gets back on his radio. "Bravo team, come in. Bravo team, come in." But nothing. The radio was silent. Then Brandon screams again on the radio, "Bravo team, Bravo leader, come in." But nothing. One of the men says, "Sir, maybe the Batman got him." Brandon says, "Oh, if he got him, then he ain't gonna get past us." The other guys in the group said, "Yeah, he ain't gonna get past us." Well, they heard a ruffling, and they started opening fire with their machine guns. But it was not the Batman. It was just some stray cat that was living in the building. Brandon says, "Ah, goddamn cat." Then someone spotted Batman, and they said, "Look, it's the Batman!" And the men began opening fire. Batman quickly takes cover behind an old sofa as the bullets were whizzing above him. During the brief stopping of firing as the men were reloading their rounds, Batman made a break for it. As he was making a break, they were finished reloading and began shooting at him again. They were also trying to shoot at the stray cat that happened to be fleeing too. Batman grabbed the stray cat in the process and quickly took cover and threw the cat out a hole in the wall that led directly to the street outside. The cat was safe, but Batman was now stuck behind a pillar. The pillar was big enough to protect him from the gunfire, but he also noticed that there was like dust and particles falling from the ceiling. This place was badly damaged by the explosion and was in danger of collapse, but Batman decided to use it to his advantage. He quickly stepped back, still maintaining cover behind the pillar, and with a mighty kick, using the strength enhancement of his bat suit, he kicked the pillar. Then suddenly, the ceiling comes caving in, taking out the SWAT team that was firing at him. The entire team was taken out, save Brandon, who was not in the area of the collapse. He looks in shock and amazement. He says, "Holy shit, he took out my team. He took out my team." He looks, Batman was gone. Batman was in another room. He could see through a spacing in the boarded windows that the whole area was surrounded by police. He needed to get out. So he lifts up his left leg and reaches for the heel of his left boot. He pulls out a device from beneath the heel of his left boot, and then he activates it. A red light emanated from the device, and Batman just waited. It seemed like an eternity. So did the police outside. Suddenly, the police and the crowd of spectators heard something. It sounded like millions of little whines coming fast towards their direction. As everybody looked, all of a sudden the entire area was surrounded by thousands and thousands and thousands of bats. Soon the bats descended on the police and the spectators. As everybody was panicking and swatting at the bats, Batman made his escape. The device that called the bats only had a very short life, and it soon ran out of battery, and the bats quickly fled. But it was enough time for Batman to make it to an alley where his Batmobile was parked. He opens the door, gets in, and starts up the engine of his brand new Batmobile. Batman throws the car in gear and peels rubber out of the alleyway. As he makes his way out the alleyway, a squad car that was coming to join the other police officers saw the bizarre-looking car speed out of the alleyway. They quickly figured out it was Batman's car, and they radioed in. And soon, a high-speed chase was ensuing, as the police were chasing Batman and his Batmobile, and there was even a pursuit helicopter. Inside the Batmobile, Batman was flooring it, shifting gears, and looking at the rear view mirror and sees that the police chasing him were getting bigger in numbers. Batman reaches for the one switch labeled smoke. He presses it, and soon a thick cloud of white smoke billows out of the back of the Batmobile. The smoke screen causes a good number of cop cars to lose control and crash. There was still another group of cops chasing Batman. Batman presses the button labeled oil, and soon an oil slick emerges from underneath the Batmobile. That causes another group of police cars to lose control and crash. But even though he did take out another group, there was still another group pursuing him, and Batman could hear on the police radio that he had in the Batmobile that they were setting up a roadblock, and Batman could see the roadblock forming dead ahead by the underpass as two big police vans were backing up to close the road. Batman knew he needed to clear that fast, so he activates the nitrous system and presses the button, and the Batmobile goes into a huge speed boost of over 200 miles an hour. Batman clears the obstacle with minor damage. Only his wing mirrors were taken out. But as for the pursuing police force, well, they all got into a huge wreck as they all collided with the vans and one another. Batman was home free. Of course, there was a lot of wreckage for the police, and as for the police pursuit helicopter, the Batmobile went way too fast for it, and it lost it. So Batman decides to head home to his Batcave. Days later, things were going down. As for Bruce Wayne, Lucius Fox made a special position for him in Wayne Enterprises. It was essentially a on-the-job training that paid very well. So it trained Bruce on how to run the company until he was ready to take over the company. As for Commissioner Loeb, Flass, and Brandon, well, the evidence that Gordon gathered against Falcone implicated the three of them as being under Falcone's payroll. To save face and save himself, Loeb resigned, and to save himself also, Flass had recorded the meetings between him and Loeb. So the sacrificial lamb was Brandon, who was thrown in jail. As for Falcone, Falcone was now awaiting trial. Well, June 1st, on a skyscraper in Gotham City, Batman stood on top of it like a guardian, looking at the city. Suddenly, he saw a bright searchlight in the sky. It had a bizarre bat symbol on it, similar to the one on his chest. Batman followed it to its source. It was originating from the roof of the new Major Crimes Unit building. And there on the roof, next to the searchlight, was none other than the newly promoted Lieutenant Gordon. Batman knocks on the searchlight and says to Gordon,
"Congratulations on your promotion, Lieutenant."
Gordon says thank you. It was long overdue. At least Grogan recognized that. Then he says to Batman, we have a lot of work to do. Then Batman says to him,
"I take it you referred to the death of Lambert, the head of Apex Chemicals."
Gordon says yes, we have his son in custody, but I don't think the kid did it, says Gordon. Batman then says to Gordon,
"I don't believe the kid did it either. I intend to find the real killer."
like and subscribe. The end.